into Adobe Illustrator, as well as creating a very simple circle shaped color wheel utilizing layers and the color palettes available to us in this program. So first things first, I'm working on a full version of Adobe Illustrator. If you are on an iPad or if you are on like a phone, that's more of an app. It's a simplified version of it. They have those nowadays. That does not have all of these features. So make sure you're on a real computer. I'm also on a Mac, so you'll need to translate a little bit if you are working on a PC. But the main thing is this top panel is called the menu. Notice if I click over into QuickTime, which is how I'm recording this video, he's down in my dock down here. I know you can't see him because I don't leave my full dock on the video. But everything changes up here to talk about the QuickTime, even though Adobe Illustrator is still up. So I'm going to hit cancel. Notice when I click back into Adobe Illustrator, it's going to change, and it's called Illustrator again, and I get these different tabs. So make sure you're in Illustrator. Next, I'm going to do a new file. You can also do a file new. Gets you to the exact same window. We are not going to name ours right here. I'm going to make sure that my unit of measurement is inches. You'll work in inches and pixels. You'll get to know pixels. If you do a lot of digital artwork, you'll get to know pixels just as well as you know inches. We're going to leave ours at 8.5 inches by 11 inches. We're not going to get into bleed. That's more of a graphic design term. As a more advanced printing style where you not only run a piece of paper through a printer, but then you take all of those prints and you run them through a trimmer so that there's no white edge. Currently, printers do not print to the edge of paper, so if you see a white edge, it's just kind of the bare bones basic printing style, and it does not have a bleed. A bleed means it literally the ink goes right up to the edge, and it's not that it was printed that way, it's that it was trimmed down to that way. So we'll leave that alone. We're going to put ours into RGB color. You'll see like this little indicator that's kind of warning you. I'm going to kind of ignore that for now, but what that means is, back to advanced color, there's RGB, red, green, blue, and then there's CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K stands for black color. This 4-color process versus this 3-color, literally 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, is just a more higher end, typically, version of printing onto a printer. RGB is typically what's on screens, TV screens, computer screens, phone screens, but there's also lots of printers, especially at-home printers, that use RGB color. You do have to kind of understand that. Again, it's a more advanced feature, but just showing you what that is. We're going to leave ours at RGB and ignore that. We're not going to get into any raster effects. That has to do with Photoshop. That is a raster-based pixel program, whereas we are going to be in Illustrator, which is a vector-based math program. Makes the file sizes a little bit smaller, different type of file. We'll get into raster Photoshop later on in the semester, and we're going to hit create with it at 8.5 inch by 11 inch and vertical. When we come into our screen, we'll notice a few things. Again, we still call this a menu. Even if I was in QuickTime, it was still referred to as the QuickTime menu. Just now it's the Illustrator menu. You got to know to look for that. It's just not a huge visual indicator. You'll notice you can close a screen, minimize a screen, or fill a screen. We're not going to do those either right now. You'll notice this top section. It's called the control panel. You'll hear me refer to the control panel a lot. You'll hear the tool panel a lot. This is the artboard file tab. You can accidentally move that, leave it in place. Ours is untitled right now, I'll show you in a minute. And then there is panels for your windows. These are called your window panels. If something's not open, you can always come up here and find it. If somebody says some random window name and you're like, I have no idea, you can always find that over here. You can also, if your screen gets really weird, always go up to Window, Workspace, and reset your essentials. Classic is what I use. Again, I'm giving you tips and tricks of things I do. Will that be where you land on as a professional? Maybe not. Possibly bits and pieces. Who knows? There's different styles to do everything, so you'll kind of find your own. Okay. we're going to go name this file. I do not name mine during the creation process. I just prefer naming it after. I know that's a few additional steps, but that's how I work so that I make sure I know where a file is. If I was given $1 for every time somebody lost a file because they didn't know where it saved and couldn't find it after the fact, I would be a millionaire. So, save as. You can do on your computer, save on your computer, which is also referred to as locally. You locally possess that file close to you where you can touch it, or you can be on the cloud. If you hop around on a lot of different computers, the cloud is a great thing. I like to save mine on my computer because I also have my entire computer loaded onto my Apple iCloud, so my computer is on a cloud, so I don't double up and then also do this. So I'm going to save on my computer. I'm going to show you how I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this 2D design. I'm going to hit create. Now, file name, do not delete this .ai. That's the Adobe Illustrator file type. It is what you need to be able to open that. If it's kind of like your address. If you didn't have a full address, if you only gave us the street name and not the numbers, or the numbers not the street name, we wouldn't be able to find your address. It's the same kind of with this .ai. Or if you ever see like a .pdf or a .cvg, which is like an embroidery machine or a wood machine, those are part of that file's identity. So be careful not to mess with those or add. Sometimes I'll see like .ai again on these. That's just two of the same. Don't do that. So we're going to delete this portion. I'm going to name it Brenda Harrison. And I'm going to call it color wheel. I put spaces because that's what I always do with web design. It used to jack up your websites if you had spaces in any of your file names. So I get used to doing that. And I know where I'm saving it on my desktop, and I'm going to hit save. That's important. If that piece is confusing to you, stop the video, go back to the beginning, and redo it. Sometimes you have to do things a couple of times. Don't be complacent in, well, I didn't understand that the first time. Yeah, as do many people not understand something the very first time they hear it. Your brain needs sometimes a couple times to process. Your hands need some time to do the actual task so that it solidifies into muscle memory. Your eyes need to see a visual of it so many times before they start to really resonate it as normal. So, okay, redo it if that was confusing. Knowing where your files are saved is very important. Sometimes you might have to redo stuff. I'm going to leave these Illustrator options native. If you want to get into those, take another class. Hit OK. And now it is not called Untitled. It is called my name. You can have a lot of files open at the same time. Be careful with that. All right, menu. Control panel, tool panel, windows. We are going to start by learning one window called layers. If your layers window is not open, go up to window, click on layers. Sorry, mine was. And it will open. We're going to double click on the one that says layer 1. We're going to call this primary colors and hit return. Now it's named that. I can close this. I can come back to it. I can always hover and it tells me what I'm on, but you also know you can get to them here. But the same goes for tools. If somebody says some random tool, you can always hover. If there's a little white dot, it means there's more tools underneath it. So when I say go to your shapes tool, you're going to go to this tool, which sometimes does the rectangle because that's like its first shape. We want the ellipse. We want to draw a perfect circle, so we're going to hold shift with our left hand. And we're going to draw a circle about that size. Right now, this circle is a white fill with a black stroke or outline. Outlines moving forward are referred to as strokes. I can change this. I can take it away. I can say, I don't want any stroke. And then you're like, well, now I don't even have a circle anymore. You do. It's just white on a whiteboard. So I'm going to change this to this native red. I'm going to leave it this CMYK red. those are kind of the same. We'll adapt our colors in a little bit. You'll see a lot. I like to leave up my control panel colors and use those when I need to get like a baseline hue. Like a baseline hue. Remember that hue is really the color that we're seeing without any black, white, gray in it. Just the native, pure, what our eyes see as wavelengths color is the hue. So I'm going to leave that red. When I mix colors, which we will in a minute, getting into our secondary colors, I will use more of my tool panel. So we have red. Perfect. It's selected. It's not selected. It's selected. Don't move it grabbing any of these corners. Make sure you're like right in the middle and you get that cursor where it's the black cursor that just showed up over there with the 8 dots around it. That means you're kind of in the middle of the object and you can move it around. If you grab these edges, you can do weird things. So don't do that. You can do Command Z to undo. You could do Command plus to zoom in. You can zoom out with Command minus. I'm just hitting them. I'm holding Command minus, plus, minus, plus. You can move around with the space bar. So hold the space bar. I get the hand tool. It's also over here. Again, almost everything can be done in multiple locations. And I can click and hold and drag it around. I can go Command 0 so that it pops my screen in case I get too zoomed in. Command 0 saves me. Or sometimes what I notice happens, like you zoom in and you're like, oh, I'm trying to get off the screen. You don't even know where you're at. You're like, oh my gosh, where's my artboard? That white piece of paper is called your artboard. I'm not quite sure where I'm at. Help. So when that happens, Command 0 pops it back into place. It's always there. Notice this little dot. It means I have stuff that is not saved. Let's go File, Save. Notice that I can also hit Command S and I'm going to be able to save, so I will be doing that in the future. Command S. Okay, awesome. I'm saved. I've got a red primary color. I'm going to now do my yellow and my blue. I want them to be the exact same. I'm going to click in the middle till it's highlighted. I'm going to go Command C. Then I'm going to go Command V. I'll move this guy over just a little bit. I'm going to do it again. Command V. I get another one. And you may be asking yourself, well, they're all red. That's weird. That's fine. We're going to go now use our tool panel to mix our colors. Oh, actually, we're going to get these some more of our kind of baseline colors. So baseline, control panel, mixing, tool panel. Red, I'm going to make this one my yellow. Let's click on this guy, and I'm going to change him to, that blue sort of bugs me. I'm going to go down to this blue. Now, what does that color mean? Let's really look at it in the tool panel and what I'm talking about. Double click on the fill. If at any point you get this swapped, it's swapping the stroke and the fill. So I had no stroke. Now I'm going to have no fill but a blue stroke. So fix those, double click into it, or change the stroke up here. You can also push the stroke forward. Then you're like, why is that happening? Just click once and it pushes the fill forward. Whichever one's forward is the one you're affecting. So I've got blue. I'm going to double click into this just to kind of show you what we're looking at here. So you're like, that is a lot of numbers, percentages, and things going on. Kind of ignore this HSB for now. We don't work in those numbers much, these percentages and degrees and so forth and so on. But notice RGB. Okay. Also, you'll notice this CMYK over here with percentages. It doesn't give us a circle to click on. No big deal. It's sort of showing us these are the numbers. The R value is 33. The G value is 64. The B value, blue, is 154. But here's the percentages if it was going to be in CMYK. Sometimes you will hear about a color number or color code. This is typically what it's talking about, this number here. Use this a lot in digital, as well as now it's starting to become a feature in a lot of different things. So there's your color code. I like to click back onto the HSB because I like to work with my native hue up in the top right corner. It gives me white in the left corner. It gives me blackest black in the bottom right corner. And then my grayscale is over here on the left side. So my tint, my tone, my shade with my native hue of the color wavelength that I'm actually able to see, which is this blue. And I can see here, it feels a little bit like it's in this lighter blue. Let's just move it a little bit here. You gotta be careful because the second you get here, you're starting to mix with red, and which is giving you purple. So try to get yourself right in the mix of that and grab a really vibrant blue. So there I am. Primary colors, good. I'm going to lock this layer by clicking right here where my finger is. It's the toggle on the lock. Now the lock's on. I can't click on anything. Click, 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 click. Nothing will let me happen. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this secondary color. I'm going to now make my secondary colors. So let's go grab our circle again. It's going to put it down as blue for now. We'll change that in a minute. I'm not going to do weird stuff here. I'm going to hit shift so that I can get a perfect circle. I want it to be about this size. It can overlap. I'm going to grab my arrow. I don't know why, but I get in the habit of clicking off a lot. I hate all those random screens that pop up. And now I'm going to make 3 of these to get my 3 primary or my 3 secondary colors. So I'm going to Command C, Command V, move it, Command V. I'm not going to be on an edge. I'm going to be kind of in the middle and move it. Okay, now let's mix our colors. Let's stay in this blue realm, this analogous side of the color wheel. And when I mix colors, I typically use the color from the tools panel. So double click on my fill. And now all I'm going to do, see my red, see my blue? I want to get kind of in the middle. See where that goes. I don't want to be too red because it's giving us a little bit of pink. So don't go all the way here. That's pink. Let's be kind of right in here for a nice purple. You can see my code. If you're really struggling to get it, pause the video, type in the numbers. It will come up for you. Okay, there's purple. Let's get this guy down here as green. Kind of the same. Here's my blue. Here's my yellow. I'm going to pull him down to the green. He's very bright. I'm going to just barely darken him because he's going to seem, well, he doesn't seem too bright. We'll leave him like that. All right, we're going to click here. What color does yellow and red mix to make? If that bugs us seeing this way, we can grab our eyedropper. We can click on the yellow, open up the yellow. Now it's a lot easier to see the yellow and the red and know that I just need to kind of go right in the midst of them. Perfect. We're just using that color palette to our advantage. We're so close to being done. So I'm going to go lock this layer. I'm going to make a final layer. We're going to call it tertiary colors. Now we're going to make a few more colors. I think 6 altogether. Grab our circle again. Hit shift so we're getting a perfect circle and just make a little circle. Let's now move this guy around. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit because that makes me happier. I'm going to use my hand tool with the space bar to move this, or I kind of have this fill in my screen. So I'm going to go Command C, Command V. I'll change these colors in a minute. Command V, Command V, Command V, Command V. Good. Now, let's do some tricky stuff. Let's have this guy selected. Let's hit Shift, hold it, click on this one. Now both of them are selected. Let's grab our eyedropper. Let's grab purple. We're going to get these down to kind of their foundational secondary color, and then we'll mix them into the tertiary color. So grab our arrow, click off of those two so they're not selected. Grab this guy, hit Shift, grab this one. Grab our eyedropper, click on the green. All right, while we're down there, we'll go to the green. Let's make a green blue. Double click. Let's mix him up to some blue. And some of these you gotta start playing with because they're just not perfect. But we'll try kind of that. That's pretty blue-green. Let's mix this one to a yellow. That's a pretty limey green, but he's kind of, he's got a lot of shade and a lot of tone in him with grays. So I'm going to move him up a little bit more to the saturation of the hue. And that looks a little bit better. I'm actually going to go back to this one, do the exact same, and just adjust him the tiniest bit to a slightly greener aqua. Like that. See my numbers? You can always copy those. It's pretty close. He's not as dark as this deep blue is, but that is okay. That's probably more. Okay. Next, click on this orange. Double click. Let's move him towards the yellow. Click on this orange. Double click. Let's move him towards the red. Let's click on this purple. Double click. Let's move it to the red. And again, something you gotta be a little clever with. That's pretty close. Definitely a red purple. Let's move this one towards blue. But still make sure it's a purple. Let's hit Command 0 so we can see the whole thing. Let's hit save since we haven't. That's why we have that little star. Let's go look at our layers and make sure that everything is correct. I'm going to lock all of them. Now everything's locked. I can't do anything right now unless I make a new layer. But let's just look if we set it up properly. Are all of my tertiary on that layer? Yep. Are all of my secondary on that layer? Yep. And my primary on that layer. Perfect. So if that's how you're set up, perfect. If not, don't be afraid to go back and redo the whole thing. If it took you 30 minutes to do it the first time, it's probably going to take you 15 minutes to do it the second time. You'll learn a lot more. You'll be a lot happier in the end, especially with this foundational material. Let me know if you have any questions. Good job.